Yeah! Yeah!
Giving you the real surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with your host, Skywalker Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Good morning, good people. Welcome to the Skywalker Morning Show. We're streaming live on YouTube. And of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker Steele. What's happening, people? Hey, man, I really legitimately have a big smile on my face because I feel like I'm talking to the fam that I ain't seen in so long. But we back up, baby. Coming up today, the offseason is officially here. You could say the Cowboys offseason was here after week 18, but the NFL offseason is officially here, and the Cowboys have their first major decision staring at them in the face with George Pickens. We're going to break down the latest surrounding this whole thing and why I think how they move or how they handle the situation will determine the direction of this offseason. Plus, we got a nice little, not surprise because I already teased it on Twitter, but Nick Harris is going to join us this morning. He sat down with Jerry Jones at Radio Row during the Super Bowl week and had a fantastic article. We got some good nuggets out of there. He was able to get Jerry to say some things I didn't think Jerry was capable of saying. So we're going to go inside that all-access interview that Nick Harris had, one of the best beat reporters in the land. Let me press this button real quick because it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Bomb Squad!
Boom! How we doing, man? How's everything going? I'm trying to get the audio right. Y'all let me know if we're sounding good, if we're clipping, because it sounds like we're clipping in my ear, but if we're not, we'll push through it, man. We'll push through it. It's been a minute. Was getting what my man say? Make sure you take care of your chickens and your mentals, right? And a little bit of a reset as we get into this offseason. I wanted to wait till the Super Bowl was over because I feel like every offseason is important. But I feel like this offseason is extremely important for the future of this Cowboys window. Let me say that. Not necessarily for the next 10 years or what have you, but this actual Cowboys window. And then they have a window, yes. I don't want to use the SB word, but we saw what happened last night. It doesn't take forever, right? It just takes some good moves, some quality decision making. And you could be in there. By the way, shouts out to the Seattle Seahawks, right? Congratulations. They have won their second Super Bowl in the last 15 years. And I know a lot of people are shouting out Mike McDonald, as they should. Second season in, he gets a ring. He is like the Sean McVay on defense. He had a fantastic game and really a fantastic season calling this defense. Shouts out to Sam Darnold. A lot of people are congratulating him. A lot of people are congratulating D-Law too, right? Shouts out to him, but I'm not the whole happy for type thing. I wish it could happen here, but Good for you, right? But for me, the biggest credit goes to John Snyder. You guys know this. I've been here with y'all, talking to y'all for many years, and I give a lot of credit to the leadership of an organization. And John Snyder is without a doubt the leader of that organization. It's an A+ organization. He is an A+ general manager. He is the first general manager to win multiple Super Bowls with the same organization with a completely different team. I mean, not just just saying that. Not a single player is still there, obviously, from their Super Bowl over a decade ago. Different coach, different quarterback, different everything. The first general manager to do that. You know,
I'm trying to see what that be like right there. Look, be that. Look.
I was texting the bros during the Super Bowl festivities, leading up to the kickoff, and just the aura of the game was kind of getting me hyped. The game was a dud for the most part. Like it's football, so I love football, whatever. But it wasn't this exciting Super Bowl per se. But again, it's the last game of the year, so you deal with it. But it was so much excitement watching the lead up to it. I'm texting the bros like, hey man, I'm trying to see what that be like. I want to feel that in this day and age, and I know y'all think I'm like 60 years old or whatever, but last time it happened, I wasn't feeling that as an adult, right? So in order for the Cowboys to get to that point, I don't even like to use this word, but they got to make some changes. They have to make some changes. And Jerry talked about self-evaluation. He talked about said changes with Nick Harris. And like I said, we're going to get into all of that. But, boy, they can't do the same things they have been doing over the last, I don't know how many years. Right? And to their credit, and I'm going to say this too, and y'all, I've made a video about this, to Shotty's credit, I think we are seeing some of those changes in regards to how they attacked the process of hiring their defensive coordinator in Christian Parker. If you want to go check out that video, I go into more detail on it. But yeah, the Cowboys can't keep doing the same things. Hopefully, and an 83-year-old man saying that he's reflecting and change that's tough. That's tough to believe at 83, but actions will speak louder, right? Because changes don't happen from press conferences. They don't happen from interviews. They happen from the decisions you decide to make. And how they decide to handle this George Pickens thing moving forward, to me, will determine, or at least give us an idea, I think, on the direction of this offseason. You feel me? You feel me? With that said, we're going to go ahead and hit this roundup soon. But I just wanted to hop into the chat. Again, if I'm clipping bad here, let me know. I'll try to figure it out as we go through. Last thing I want to do is have this thing, end because of some damn audio. But because it feels good to be back. I see some of our normal Hawk the Bodyguard, Ride Trap, Swain, Tucking Road, the Guru. Shouts out to Brother Foots. We got the collective this week. We missed it last week. We'll be back. The collective has been on fire. So I haven't been completely absent. I haven't done live streams in a while, but I've been making videos. I've been over on the collective. So you've heard my thoughts. And Mike is a little chippy. That's what I figured. I'm gonna try to fix it as we get going here. But appreciate y'all for coming through. We gonna push through it. I'll be damned. I'll be damned if if I'm gonna let YouTube do this to me. So here we go.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time. It is time for.
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Let me talk to you.
Let me talk to you, Cowboys Nation. So before the Super Bowl last week, the NFL dropped their salary cap projections, and they informed the entire league that they will see another massive jump in the salary cap, going from $279 million to 305 tops. So we're going to see roughly 30 to $35 million increase, a nearly $100 million increase from 2022, right? So when we talk about the cap, look, there's buzzwords like salary cap's fake, this and that. It's not that it's fake. It's that it can be manipulated into your favor in a window. This is what we mean. $100 million increase in 3-4 seasons means you can manipulate that cap to be able to go for the gusto in a certain window. Which leads me to the report, if you will. I kind of have to chuckle a little bit calling it a report. Adam Schefter tweeted this out, but something that we have been talking about since George Pickens started snapping. Honestly, maybe even since George Pickens was brought here, that the franchise tag could be an option. So Adam Schefter dropped his report that the Cowboys are expected to tag wide receiver George Pickens, and then all the beat reporters started to hit their contacts up, and the contacts said, yeah, this is legit, et cetera, et cetera. Again, these type of talks have been happening for quite some time in Dallas, not because it's standard operating procedure across the league. Yes, franchise tags happen, but do they happen as often as the Cowboys, or are they used as weapons like the Cowboys do it? Not really, no. Not really. And we'll get into that a little bit more. They have between February 17th and March 3rd to tag George Pickens. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that part. However, on Super Bowl day, Ian Rappaport comes out. Very similar to last year on Super Bowl day. And he's talking about trades. Not just Cowboys, but the big one was the Cowboy one. Because he says there's possible discussion about a tag and trade. So I'm looking at not just him sideways. I'm looking at whatever the leak is sideways. I'm looking at national media sideways. Because why on Super Bowl Sunday? Do I think it's a coincidence? I don't. Whether that be, again, national media, whether that be local, whether that be whoever the leak is, whatever. I don't think it's a coincidence because they did this last year. Right? Internal discussions about trade Michael Parsons. Cowboys could tag and trade George Pickens on the day of the big game that the Cowboys aren't in. I believe in coincidences sometimes, but I don't believe in them all the damn time. Let me ask y'all before I move on, though, because I always make sure y'all up. What's y'all vibes on this tag and trade thing? Like, how often does that even happen in the NFL? Growing up, when I used to hear tag and trade, it was almost exclusively an NBA term. I don't know how many times I've heard or I've seen tag and trade in the NFL. I'm sure it's happened. I can't remember off the top of my head. Franchise tag and trade. Want to say, was it did Tyreek Hill get franchise tag and traded? Can't quite remember if Tyreek Hill got franchise tag and traded. Lost in translation said it's a strategy. I'm gonna try to reset this audio. It might take me out for like 30 seconds to a minute, but just hold tight. It's a strat. I mean, it's a strat. Yeah, you can't rule it out. Brooks said he's fine with being tagged just to see if it happens again next year like he did this year. But like CD said, when I balled out, I got what I deserved. And I'm going to get into that why. It's not so much about the tag as it is about the when they can get this thing done. Because a lot of people, right, the first thing that happened when the report came out that Cowboys are expected to franchise, the kind of pushback was, whoa, everybody calm down. This is normal. This is expected, yada, yada. Fair. That is true. In that it's kind of expected because the Cowboys do this. They did it at 1.6 consecutive seasons in a row. And this is why we're going to talk about why this all ties into a domino effect. First, let's go back though. Let's go back and talk about the salary cap. Salary cap is rising. Here is where your Cowboys are at right now in regards to the salary cap. This is obviously going to change. They sit 29th, $31 million over the cap. With a couple clicks of the button, literally a couple, maybe even one, you can get under the cap. But every year, and this is why I think, not all Cowboy fans, but this team has made you have to understand the cap. If you follow this team, if you study this team, if you cover this team, you have to know about the cap because they force you to. But shouts out to my guy Henny, who had put this together on Twitter. These are the buttons the Cowboys can hit to manipulate the cap. They can click roughly 10 different buttons and get to $131 million in cap savings. And every year we do this. Every year we look at all the buttons. The Cowboys don't necessarily click all of those buttons, but they do click some because that's how they structure their contracts, I should say. So by literally just clicking the Dak Prescott contract, you're at the floor, right? You're good to go. So the Dak, CD, and Tyler Smith ones, those are baked in there, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You'll be way above the cap now. Then it gets interesting. The Quinnen Williams extension, I think that has to be a legitimate thing. You don't trade what you traded for Quinnen for him not to be here beyond next year. So you shouldn't play around with that. However, I don't know if that is actually going to be a thing this year because they're going to deal with trying to bring back guys and trying to get Pickens done. So Quinnen Williams may not be until later. We'll see. Kenny Clark, potential extension. Let's talk about that. Terrence Steele. I do want to get into that. I believe more in the restructure of that as opposed to flat out cutting now. And we'll talk more over throughout the offseason about all these things. Malik Hooker and Logan Wilson, moving on from them, could save you $7 million one and $6.5 million on the other. So there's a lot of buttons that they can press here to get where they need to get to. Will the Cowboys do that? That's to be determined. Bear with me real quick. I think I know the solution. It may be quiet for about 30 seconds, but I'm gonna try to reset this so that there's no more clipping. So give me 1 second, y'all. Check. Mic check. We back. Somebody said they didn't hear the clipping. Now, I remember what happened last time when it was clipping. It was a simple solution, and I just did it. So hopefully we're good to go, Cowboys Nation. Don't hear anything just yet, but we'll see. So again, shouts out to Henny. He put this together. There's multiple programs you can use to do it yourself as well. Shouts out to Spotrack. There's another one that just came out. Really cool stuff you can get to. So when we talk about the cap increasing as much as it does and restructures and buttons of press, this is why I don't ever want to hear, try to be respectful here, front office minions talk to me about that. Because every good team that spends money, they manipulate the cap. It's about the how. But in this case, in regards to George Pickens, how does this tie into him? The franchise tag was finna happen. Not a surprise. But when they decide to get a restructure, or not a restructure, an extension done matters to me. It matters to me. Because if they tag George Pickens, a lot of people say, oh, they can drag this out to August. That's not possible. They have until July 15th. But even waiting till then affects your cap now, right? We know it. When you tag a guy, immediately $28 million goes right to the cap. And the reason why I don't want to see that happen is because I don't want them to use it as an excuse. You feel me? I don't want the Cowboys to say, oh, we couldn't get a deal done with George Pickens, so we had that's $28 million allocated to the cap, so we got to be. I don't want to hear that. Well, Sky, they can click all those buttons. They can. They absolutely can. Doesn't mean they will. And it doesn't mean if they do click it, they still won't use this as an excuse. However, I'm not all up in arms that they'll tag him, because you have between February 17th and March 9th to 11th to get a deal done prior to free agency. It's very rare that happens with the Cowboys, but to me, that is the time frame I'm looking at. You want to tag them? Cool. Whatever, right? But tag them early. Tag them right away. February 17th. We heard what Steven said, and we'll get to this in a second. As soon as you get down to the combine and you see David Mulugeta and all, and whoever his agent is at the time, hammer home a deal so we can go into free agency with a clean slate. Not having in the back of our mind, well, no, we really can't go after this guy because we got to worry about this. And I don't want to hear none of that, because we have heard that many and many times throughout the years. There really is no excuse, in my opinion, because you don't have a bunch of dudes you got to re-sign to all these crazy contracts. You got one. You got one. So there is a history of the Cowboys doing this, right? The Cowboys have used a franchise tag 11 times since the 2000s, 9 times in the last decade plus, dating all the way back to Anthony Spencer. They used it 9 times. No team has used it more. No team. And no team has used it more and let their guys play on it. 6 of the 9 times a player has played on a tag. So I know it's standard operating procedures and it's no big deal. But ladies and gentlemen, again, just based off of history, it could happen. You could tag him and he could play on that. I don't want that to happen, but I also don't want it to get there. I don't want it to get to this point. I don't even want to get to, all right, we're in June and no deal. We're now July 14th and we finally get a deal. I don't even want to get there. For what? For who? For what? This shouldn't even really be that crazy of a decision, right? Jerry said he wants him there. Steven said he wants him there. But they say this to all those guys. So when they do this, I'm not saying this is a definite, but this is just my opinion. If they were to get this done prior to free agency, to me, that will give me more of an indication on their direction in free agency. I think they'd be more aggressive than they've been since Brandon Carr. I truly do believe that. If they don't, is it wrong for me to look at them sideways based off of history? I'd have to be like, okay, let's see. But if you get this thing done, that is moving different. That is really moving different. Again, of those 9 tags, the Cowboys have only gotten 1 contract done in March. And it was the second tag on Dak Prescott. So they had like 2 years and some change, to essentially negotiate. So this isn't just a cut and dry, oh man, tag George Pickens, everything's good to go. Not saying he won't be here or play on it or anything like that, but it's not as cut and dry. He's tagged. He'll be signed in April. Let's tag his ass and sign him in March 4th so we can go into this free agency without having to worry about that. So what is the Cowboys' plans? They talked to Stephen Jones about it at the not combine, but the Senior Bowl. So let's just take a quick little listen a little bit on Stephen Jones discussing some of, I don't want to say plans, because when it comes to the Jones, they don't like to they don't like to negotiate on your terms. If it comes out in the media, it's because we want it to. But you can tell they're beginning their public negotiations right now. So just take a listen real quick.
George Pickens, how confident are you guys that you'll be able to get a long-term deal?
Yeah, we won't get into any details right now. Certainly, we want George to be back here in Dallas, and we'll certainly go from there.
Have you guys had any chances to talk with representation, Javon?
Real quick before we move forward on that one. Hey, man, y'all talk to George Pickens? We're not getting into any of that. Next question. And it didn't strike me until John said something a couple weeks ago of, hey, this is intentional. This isn't just by accident. When it's time, before the season's over, oh, George Pickens, we want him here. We want to do we love him. We're going. When it's time, hey, man, we want him back. Next question. Y'all know it's time, right? It's time for them negotiations. So then they asked him, hey, how you feel about Javonte? Did you talk to Javonte's people? Or did you talk to, Pickens and Clowney's people or what have you? A little different flavor when it came to Javonte.
Pickens or Jadeveon?
We've certainly visited with Javonte. Hadn't had those visits. A lot of those happen at the Combine. Obviously, we're still, got some time before free agency starts, and not able to talk to those guys until free agency starts. But we're always visiting with representatives about our players.
Always visiting representatives about our players. Can't get to Pickens people until the Combine. Fine. But what about Javonte? Oh, we talked to him. To be fair, Javonte Williams, from my understanding at the time, did not have representation. So, yeah, they're going to go to him. And he doesn't cost that much. He's not a massive deal. All right. So, without a major contract looming, I think it's easier for them to go after and talk to guys like Javonte or Clowney. We'll have more on that in a little bit, because I do want to touch on another thing he said to Jory Epstein. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get to our guy, one of the best beat reporters, I think, down there. I mean, he does fantastic work. Even before he joined the Cowboys, you can tell he did crazy work covering high school, which helps him with his draft and other things. So let's welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, our guy, Nick Harris, to the show. What's up with you, Nick?
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, man. How are you?
I'm good, brother. I appreciate the things you do for Cowboys Nation, keeping us covered. And you did some good stuff down there or I should say over there in San Francisco. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that drink too you had with Jerry.
Good deal. Yeah. It was timely. It was a good event, but yeah, overall it was pretty solid.
So let's get into this thing. We were talking about this George Pickens contract that is looming, and I think is going to really generate the most headlines over the next few weeks. But something that I talked about, I'm not sure if you heard here, when it comes to the quality players that finish up their contracts, Jerry usually places the tag on them. It's like a routine thing, dating all the way back to Anthony Spencer. Hardly does he let those guys, go into free agency. We did see it a little bit with, I think it was Amari Cooper, and that's like the first time that's happened in a long time, but he usually tags them. Do you think when Jerry talks about change, because that's one of the things he talked about with you, do you think this George Pickens situation is the first litmus test for Jerry Jones actually changing, or is this just business as usual, dressed up differently?
Well, I think the first litmus test was probably how the defensive coaching staff was handled, right? Mm-hmm. And Brian Schottenheimer kind of leading point on that, and them doing 9 interviews, and they had only done 14 total interviews in the history of evaluating defensive coordinator candidates before this process, and they evaluated 9 in this one alone. So I would say that was probably the first litmus test, and Jerry kind of allowing Brian to run point on that, and them doing that thorough process, and they're continuing to do that with filling out his coaching staff. But, as far as this George Pickens situation, I'm curious what change would look like with George Pickens' situation, because this one is so unique in the sense of like, okay, he's only had the one season in Dallas. Granted, he has had 4 years in the league, so you do have that context as well, and I think that's important context. But in the context of the one season that you've had him in your building, where does that price point eventually land on? And I think this is going to be an interesting negotiation in the sense of like, okay, what does David Mulligeta and George Pickens bring to the table versus what Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, some of the front office people and the Cowboys, are able to counter with, in the sense of like, hey, we've only seen it for one season, So I wonder if the tag and playing on the tag is more reasonable than we think, just because this is one of those rare situations that I think you could see a play on the tag actually happen. However, I would say that if his agent wasn't David Mulligeta. David Mulligeta does not let his clients play on the tag. And so there's most likely going to have to be something worked out. But if that July 15th deadline comes and Pickens doesn't have a deal, is he going to hold out the whole season? I don't think so. And so I'm curious to see what this negotiation ends up looking like. I think the biggest turning point we are going to see from this entire ordeal will be at the end of March when Jerry Jones goes down to the owners' meetings in Phoenix, Arizona. There was the famous meeting last year in Palm Beach, Florida, where he said he didn't know David Mulligeta's name, and that felt like a turning point in the Micah Parsons negotiations. So that's going to be when we start to learn, what the nitty-gritty is behind the scenes, I think.
You said something about playing on the tag, and the Cowboys, again, I said this earlier, they've let 6 players play on the tag over the last 9 franchise tags. Anthony Spencer did it twice. D-Law did it once, Dak did it once, Tony Pollard and Dalton Schultz. They all played on it, but none of them had David Mulligeta as their agent. So I think that is a wild card that could be very interesting moving forward with this, because he doesn't, if I'm not mistaken, he doesn't normally let his guys do that.
Yeah, it never does, and that was a big part of the conversation last year. Whenever Jerry was starting, hey, we can keep Micah Parsons under control for 3 years. We could play this game all day, and so it's going to be fascinating to see how that works with George.
Earlier, you had brought up Christian Parker, and I'm with you. I said this at the beginning of the show. I do think the first indication of a little bit of a change was how they went about getting Christian Parker, the process of doing so, and I think that was a lot of shoddy. They trusted him because I think what happened in regards to the offense side of ball. And I think when he says this to you, this was thorough. I think this was done with last year's success on offense in mind. And I think it was done in mind of how we've been doing it and haven't hit the mark. I feel like that's a bit of an admitting that, last year we let Shoddy run the offensive hires and it did well. And we clearly selected Eberflus, and not just Eberflus, but prior to that, other defensive coordinators, and it hasn't worked out. Is that kind of what you took from that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a self-reflecting statement, I think, and one that I think Cowboys fans should have been wanting to hear over the course of the past 3 decades. And so it was that's exactly how I took it. And then you saw, the process last year in which Schottenheimer went about hiring his offensive assistants. You've seen that completely duplicated here this offseason with the defensive assistants. And so, yeah, and the 2 biggest quotes you mentioned, the one is like how we have been doing things can't be how we do things moving forward, or whatever that quote ended up being. Yeah. And then the other one saying, if I don't change, I'm not successful. And so he told us that during midseason last year, he sat down in his office at home, and he went through a very thorough evaluation of how they've been doing things, not only over the course of the last year, but over the course of the last 5 to 10 years. He said, why are we running into the same issue over and over again? And that's the evaluation he came out of. That's the takeaway he came out with, is that however we have been doing things, we can't continue to do that if we want to be successful. And, it's an interesting time in Jerry Jones' career. I mean, he's 83 years old. He understands that he doesn't have too many runs left at this thing. And, to implement change at this juncture might be viewed as a risk. But I think if you view it from Jerry's standpoint, he says it's necessary. And so, he looked at these 2 Super Bowl teams, Seattle Seahawks, New England Patriots. He looked at how they had he looked at how they've had didn't have success in 2024 and turned around and they're in the Super Bowl in 2025. He said these two teams are inspirational because we feel like we can do the same thing. And so, however much of that is him legitimately feeling that way or just, blowing smoke up the offseason's pipes is, to be determined. But he feels like this change and implementing it, let Shoddy kind of run things from behind the scenes, he sees it as necessary moving forward.
Yeah, I think, when you start talking to him about Christian Parker or just coaches in general, I think that's when you got the best stuff out of him. Because he said this quote here, and you already kind of talked a little bit about it, but this one stood out to me when you asked him, or when he kind of talked about how he acknowledged the Cowboys have been operating, I think, behind the curve when it comes to schematics and whatnot. He said, I put too much emphasis on the coach's individual place in line, their place in the profession, and should have been more attentive to what's coming out of the box today. I feel like you have to kind of figure that out and decipher what he's saying but can you do that for us for Jerry speak?
Yeah, absolutely. He had said that, too many of his decisions in the past had been viewed in the lens of what they have done in the past and what are they doing in the present. He said, and I have not been putting as much intention and effort into what they could be doing in the future. And I thought that was really timely to hear from Jerry Jones, and I think that's a big reason why you can look at a guy like Christian Parker being the hire at defensive coordinator. He's the first-time defensive coordinator since 2007. He's the youngest DC in team history. You look at that statement compared with those facts, and it makes sense. He's like, okay, I feel like Christian Parker can get more out of tomorrow, than what these other guys, a Jonathan Gannon could potentially bring to tomorrow, and so on and so forth. Because Gannon would have been the hire that would have been customary over the course of the last few DC hires, right? Yep. And because he has the past experience, we understand what he is in the present. But moving forward into the future, I don't know if there's success left for Jonathan Gannon in this league. I could be wrong. We'll see. But, you throw in a young coordinator like Christian Parker who will be able to go into the first 7-8 weeks of the season without a whole lot of scout for other teams to evaluate. That's a big deal. And not only that, they feel comfortable in what his scheme will be. They feel comfortable that he has some nuances to the Vic Fangio scheme that'll be able to throw, a little bit of wrench of uniqueness to what this Cowboys defense looks like. And then I think more than ever, he'll be able to build this defense how he wants it to be. They have the bones, in my opinion. Of course they do. Quinnen Williams, DeMarvin Overshown, Deron Bland if he's healthy, guys like that. But he'll be able to build it with these 2 first-round picks and with an approach in free agency. And you talk about the litmus test, and I hate to get off topic a little bit here. That'll be the first big litmus test, is how do they approach free agency? Do they actually spend in free agency? And I think that'll be the one that we can point back to the most when we hear these quotes about Jerry wanting to change.
Absolutely. And that's why I think, if the tag and how they use it, or if they were to get something done prior to free agency, it does, to me, say that it can indicate how they go in free agency. Because I've seen them before use the tag and say, oh, well, we can't do anything. We can't be aggressive because we have money allocated to X, Y, Z. However, with a couple of clicks of a button, they could generate a ton of money to still be active in free agency. And we've heard all in. Granted, it was for his guys. We've heard selectively aggressive. And the big buzzword this year, Nick, is bust the budget. And you talk to Jerry about bust the budget. Do you sense when you're, now again, Jerry is very good at, manipulation, but do you sense that they're finally ready to act like a big market team in free agency, or are they still going to be philosophically conservative there?
Yeah, I'm terrified to give a straight answer on that, right? But I think, he was asked at that sit down by Joe Hoy of the Dallas Morning News, what does bust the budget actually look like? And, he was like, well, we did a lot of things different last year. And, he didn't really give examples, although you could point to all the trades. I think George Pickens, Quinnen Williams, even smaller trades like Joe Milton. And even though Kenneth Murray was a disaster, that was still a trade that they went out there and did. And you look at Dante Fowler's contract, even though it was only $6 million, it was more than they have spent on an edge rusher in free agency since Greg Hardy. And so you look at those deals and you look at those trades, and he says doing more than that. And so I wonder what that looks like at the end of the day. Is it $6 million and 1 cent? And is it trading for another depth linebacker that won't really pan out because they want to pigeon him into a starting role? Or are they actually going to go out there and signing Nakobe Dean, who Nakobe Dean could command, upwards of $15 million on the free agency market, or a guy like Reed Blankenship, or a guy like Joseph Osai, which I think, this team should definitely be targeting in free agency out of Cincinnati, even though his price tag's probably going to be in the $9-10 million range. What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And I think free agency is going to be the big first test of that.
I do think it's fair to really not know, to say, look, I have no idea, because what does that really look like over the last 20 years? The last time they've kind of went bust a budget in free agency was Brandon Carr. You could argue maybe 2020, right? But with the whole, I think it was like Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe. They went up and eventually signed Everson Griffin. So you could say maybe that's a little busted budget there. And let me say this. They have shown the willingness when they have a new defensive coordinator to usually bring in guys for him. Now, I think it should be more about the quality of the guys, and that's not necessarily the quantity. The only defensive coordinator that didn't do that for was Mike Zimmer. Eberflus even got a couple of his guys. Mike Nolan got some of his guys. Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn helped change the trajectory up front. The Cowboys were never signing or drafting big fellas, and then they drafted a few. Didn't work out. But it still happened, and they signed some safeties, and they signed They signed a lot of people under Dan Quinn. So I do think there is a possibility of them bringing a bunch of bodies, but to me, it's more so about the quality of the bodies, not necessarily the quantity.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could probably look at a guy like Eric Kendricks for Mike Zimmer, but even then, that was a guy that was most likely going to be left on the street. But I thought he played pretty well in 24. Yeah. But you hope that Christian Parker has as much influence in draft discussions and draft, selection that Dan Quinn had, because you go back to some of the picks that Dan Quinn was a big influence on, and I think you can find some direct influence into how this team has ended up shaking out on defense over the course of the last few years. Now, I think if you ask Jerry Jones, there's some positives associated with that. There's also some negatives associated with that. Mm-hmm. I wonder how all that will factor into the Christian Parker conversation as well.
Hey, fantastic stuff so far here with Nick Harris. I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but what's something that the fans don't really understand about sitting down with Jerry in person? Kind of peel back that curtain, if you will.
Yeah, he's very personable, and I think some fans might view him as kind of a stone wall who's maybe trying to argue points back and forth. Jerry won't argue with you unless he's really passionate about you being wrong. Even if he agrees with you being wrong, he'll sit there and talk with you through it. And so I think that's probably the more fascinating thing about Jerry. And to no surprise, whenever we were done and we all got up and shook his hand to leave, he said, we were in a room full of, big-time NFL execs and coaches and whatnot, and he was like, one thing that this room doesn't understand that I do is that you guys are the bread and butter of what we do on a day-to-day basis, and we need you guys. And I was like, man, I appreciate that, because I like having that influence, I guess, at the end of the day. Maybe that's my ego talking, but I will say it's fascinating to hear Jerry Jones say that, just because his relationship with the media is a very unique one, and he certainly took some time to communicate that. But overall, really cool experience, no doubt.
I was going to ask you, what didn't make the article that you wish you could have put in there, but that's a good one. That's a good one. Hey, Nick, you and the media, y'all are very important. Y'all the heartbeat of this thing. That's a good one.
I appreciate that. Y'all are too, man. And I think the more content that we drive to this space, the more conversation we have, and it allows for more audience people. So I would say that with your space as well. The thing that did not make the article is when I was coming down, and I just couldn't figure out a natural way to work this in, but when I was coming down to write the article in the lobby, walked right past a man who I could hear like out of the corner of my ear was like saying hello to everybody, and it was a very recognizable voice, and I was like, man, what is that? And I turned around, very tall dude, and I could see a bald head from the back, and I said, oh, my God, that was Dave Chappelle. And Dave Chappelle had walked right past us as we were walking out. And I was like, man, if I had just kept my head up out of my phone for 3 minutes, I would have seen Dave Chappelle. Goodness. But that was probably the one thing that didn't make the article that I wish I could have found a natural way to throw in there.
Oh, man, I have a Dave Chappelle drop. And let me see if I can find it real quick. That I think you would love. Let me see. Is it? No, that's not it. I don't think I got it in here anymore. But there's so many Dave Chappelle quotes I could just go off of, man. Good stuff. But hey, Nick, before I let you go, that damn drink, man. Did Jerry clock you for that pink drink?
He never actually verbally addressed it, but I know he addressed it in his mind. He's got to. I mean, everyone at the table looked at me like, that was your choice? I was like, no, it really wasn't, man. Come on, don't do this to me. We all had that telekinesis conversation right there, but it was good, though. I would order it again, just maybe not at a table with Jerry Jones and sports writers.
I had a situation like that with my wife. This is when we first moved down to Dallas. We're visiting places ain't never been. And she's like, oh, you should try this, try it. I'm all right, whatever. So I ordered a damn drink, and she just gets a beer, which I usually just get is a beer. And the drink come out, and it's this girly pink-looking raspberry. I'm like, what is this? I said, nah, we switching these drinks right now. I'm not about to be sitting here with this pink drink with an umbrella in it and a lime or something, and you got a beer. Hell no. So we switching. Give me whatever you drink. Let's go.
Exactly.
Hey, man, I found the drop. Here you go.
Or, here's another idea that's going to be very controversial. You could shut the up.
Love Dave Chappelle, man.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Hey, bro, appreciate you jumping on here, blessing us with some inside access to the interview. This cannot be the last time we talk to you, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me up anytime. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, plug you and Jonathan Oney. Shouts out to J.O. Your podcast you got on YouTube here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing the Cross Shop podcast, me and John Owning. We've been on a couple-week break, but we got some things cooking behind the scenes that I think might be able to make this show pretty damn good here in the future. So come give us a subscribe on YouTube, Cross Shop Pod. And, we're talking Cowboy stuff all off season and about to hop into draft stuff, too.
Nick Harris, ladies and gentlemen of the Fort Worth Star Telegram. Appreciate you, bro. Enjoy your day.
Yeah, thank you, man. You too.
Hey, man. Really good stuff. I definitely got to find a way to get Nick back on the show more often. I'm looking over here. That's a true story, too. My wife is probably watching right now. I forget where we're at. Some rooftop. First year down there, first summer or something down there. She loved to try all this new stuff. Me, I'm very simple. Hey, you should try this, try that. Well, why ain't you try it? Give me that goddamn beer. Somebody said something about Twisted. Look, Twisted Teas is different. I drink it. If I don't want, hard alcohol, which I don't drink much. I'm not a big drinker anymore. And I just want some flavor. I just give me this like juice, really. You know what I'm saying? But no, this wasn't no Twisted Tea. This was just straight Twisted. PTH Free said Nick is so damn good at his job. He really is, man. He really is. And I think he's underrated when it comes to the draft aspect because he just knows the backgrounds of a lot of these players because he covered them during his time. I think it was 24/7 working for them. So he's really good. Really, really good all around, man. Really good all around. All right. Still want to talk more about this potential. I don't even know if it's potential. I think it's going to happen. Franchise tag with George Pickens. Want to talk to y'all too. We got one caller on the line. We'll talk to you in a second. 351-999-3787 is the call in line. Before I do that though, if you don't mind, we still got bills to pay here. I do want to talk to you about one of our sponsors we got popping on the show still. And this is not just a sponsor to me because I actually still use this to this day. Shouts out to Mando, man. Ever since we got this partnership sometime last year, I've been using Mando. And I got to talk to the fellas real quick. And ladies too, but mostly the fellas. You go on a date, right? That's what the Mando. It wants to talk to you about these dates. You ever get ready for the first date and all of a sudden you're overthinking it? And you get the fresh cut, clean car. You're checking your breath every 5 dang on minutes. But the non-negotiable is BO. That's a non-negotiable. And you can't cover up BO with just a whole bunch of cologne, man. They see right through that. If you're nervous about anything, get Mando. You ain't got to worry about it. And it's not just the deodorant aspect of it. They got full body stuff. They got the cream. They got the wipes. They got everything over there on Mando. And it covers you up to 72 hours. So if you want to try America's #1 body deodorant, go over to shopmando.com. Use the code right there, STEEL, STEELE, for 20% off site-wide. Plus, you get the free shipping, right? And if you're serious about this, let them know. the boy sent you. It helps. It really does. And if you can't go on the website, which I don't know why you couldn't because you're watching me right now, you can go into Walmart, to other retailers. They have it in store. I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know that. I was shopping in Target one day, I happened to look up. I said, oh, they got Mando, man. I should get some. Then I said, no. They finna give me some. So shopmando.com. Use the promo code STEEL, STEELE. All right, let's talk to y'all a little bit here, man. We got 559 on the horn. I ain't familiar with this one, man. Who this?
Hello?
Yes, sir. You are live.
Oh, man, I appreciate it, man. Good to talk to you still.
Nice talk to you, too. What's your name, man?
Bruce, man.
Welcome to the show, Bruce.
Yes, sir, man. We're going to see this change that Jerry's talking about because we all know he's been in control of the headlines before the season and this year. You know, if he holds this George Pickens thing just to stay on the first block of ESPN, we're in trouble again. He needs to get this deal done, restructure all those because we need players. We need players. You know, we need a tackle. We know we need linebacker, a middle linebacker. We know we need two safeties and possibly a corner. You're not going to get all that in the draft. You got to knock a couple of them birds out the sky early.
Agree.
With starters.
I agree.
And
you got two legitimate picks. You have no third, right? You're not picking until the fourth round. So, and with all due respect to fourth rounders, boy, you're talking about a super duper lottery there. If you think a fourth rounder is going to come in and move the needle, and it happens. Don't get me wrong, it does happen from time to time, but that is not a strategy, right? But your first two picks, cool, but that's not going to cover all your problems. You have to attack free agency, or at the very least, if you're like me, man, one of those picks and go get a Max Crosby or something. But that's just me.
Right. Hey, but we got a lot of holes, though. Crosby sounds good, but I feel like we're going to be left with 3 or 4 non-starters on the roster that and come playoff time, you just can't have guys that can't hold water. I just don't want to see anybody's first-round pick that didn't work out, for a deal. I don't want to get players off the bargain bin 3 weeks after free agency starts, Let's make some moves. Let's get, I'm hearing a lot of stuff about Blankenship and Dean, probably because of system familiarity, But I just want to see this George Pickens thing get done. If this thing gets done fast, we know something's changed.
That's how I feel.
Because we don't need the, yes.
Yep,
we don't need the headline. Yes, sir, man. But that's all I got for you, man. You covered so much. I had a lot to say, but you guys did a great job covering it, man.
No, it's cool. Hey, even if you repeat what I said, that's fine, man. We can still rap about it. But appreciate the phone call, Bruce.
Yes, sir, man. I'll keep watching, man. You have a good one.
You as well. Yeah, that's my whole point of this situation. Look, I said this to my guy Landon a few weeks ago. I have not been moved either way by anything in regards to what Steven is saying, what Jerry is saying about the upcoming offseason free agency or what have you. Because nothing they've said has told me that they're going to be drastically different in free agency or they're going to be the same in free agency. It's just kind of just standard procedure here. Actions will speak. And I think the first action to me is how they handle George Pickens. If they tag George Pickens, but get a deal done prior to free agency, boy, I feel very confident. Very confident that these boys are going to do some things in this offseason that have been different over the last decade plus. Again, since Brandon Carr, I feel like they'll be extremely aggressive. Now, if they don't get a deal, it doesn't mean they won't, because they can hit these buttons here to still have money. It's just I haven't seen them hit every single last button we talk about every year. Every year we talk about the 7 or 8 buttons that can click to generate all this money. And we've seen them sit on $50-something million in cap before, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the main point of the show, is that, yeah, this is probably happening. but when you get the deal done, because we believe that is going to happen, right? Well, I think we all believe a deal will be done. I do think could be an indicator. I also would not rule out the possibility of the other thing. The two other things, really. I don't like to talk about it, but it's the reality. The other thing being, he could play on the franchise tag. This has happened 6 different times over the last 9 tags the Cowboys have used. That is possible. I don't see this happening, but the other possibility that was brought up yesterday was of a tag and trade. I don't know, man. I don't see it. I know some people have made some very good points about not needing 2 receivers, about, other teams winning with. Look, I get it. But boy, things would have to go so south. And they did with last year with Micah, right? Granted, a lot of that was both parties. Can't see a lot of that happening with him. Things would have to go really south for them to do a tag and trade to me. But Stephen Jones sat down with Jory Epstein, who does fine work. Fine work. He did say this. In regards to the George Pickens contract, he said, quote, "That's just something we'll have to work through. Obviously, we think George is going to be back and we can effectuate that. But at the same time, we want to be open-minded to anything." But at the same time, we want to be open-minded to anything. What do you mean by that? That's what I would ask. Jory probably, I don't know, Jory asked, what do you mean by that? What's anything? Open-minded anything. Week later, tag and trade. I'm not saying that's the anything. But what else could it be? Maybe playing on the tag. I guess that could be the anything. Again, this goes back to what I was saying. I truly believe the public negotiations have started. And don't think public negotiations is not a real thing in this organization. I mean, for y'all that have been on this channel, y'all know that. For those who may be new, maybe think, oh, that doesn't happen. It is a legitimate weapon in Dallas. Todd France sat down with somebody on a podcast after the fact, by the way. You would never do this during negotiations. Todd France had told Dak, do not get involved in the media. He told us on the podcast that, I think verbatim, the Cowboys utilize public negotiations, media negotiations as a weapon. Don't do it. I do think that's something that Voldemort didn't understand. You ain't gonna win that battle. Trust and believe me, you will not win that battle. I don't care how beloved GP may be right now. You don't want to go into that arena. Des said it best. Jerry, how you going to bring me in here to try to get a contract done? That's like, can you guard me one-on-one on the field down there? He said no. That's the equivalent. Get out of here. Go talk to my people. I don't think you'll see that with GP. That happening. Hey Marv, you've been Voldemort for a while here. Boy, I thought you say his name out there. It's starting to get like Tony Romo back in the day. You say Tony Romo's name, boy. My bad, damn. All right, let's you know what's funny? I was looking in the chat. Y'all going back and forth with Marty. It wouldn't be a welcome back show if we don't got Martise. Martise, they coming for you in the chat, Martise. What's going on, man?
Yeah. Look, the funny part is, which is cool, and I'm gonna say this respectfully.
Yeah.
It is super weak. It is weak of the guy. I'm not even gonna say his name. I didn't curse at him. I said nothing disrespectful, but he muted me. I guess he's a moderator or something.
Yeah.
You go look at all my messages. I said, and then he starts being disrespectful and cursing. That is weak, and I'm gonna leave that there. basically, and this is the thing, right? And I want to say this first.
Leave the fights between me and Martise, y'all. Y'all don't got it. Let me and Martise fight, man.
I didn't even say nothing crazy worth fighting. And this is what I'll say, and I said it repeatedly. I'm not the Joneses, and I don't care about their money. They're billionaires, right? They can I blow your money. Like, if you told me, yo, you can make this thing work, spend the money. I don't care, right? Because if Dallas wins, they're going to get it back. So even from their perspective, it makes sense. My issue with people is the all in no matter what, as if you can't do that poorly. And then arguing like the cap doesn't exist because you can restructure and move money around. Yes, that's true. But that only works if you win, because eventually you have to pay that, and you're cooked when you do that with crazy deals, and it doesn't work.
So, Martise.
So I'm fine with the. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're not wrong in that, because you're kind of, I don't want to say riding the fence, but because you're speaking on both sides. Because you're right. Like, you can do it, but there is ramifications later. My I don't want to call it argument, just my kind of rebuttal, if you will, is that sure. And I think most fans will be okay if you actually shown the willingness to go for the gusto. And if it failed, it's because you actually tried for it. And a good organization can recover from that. It doesn't have to, because you know what I used to hear, Martise? I used to hear this a lot back in my blogging days, and really when I first started on air was, oh man, we can't do this. We can't X, Y, Z. We can't be super aggressive. We can't spend all this money because I don't care if we win one Super Bowl if it means you'll be bad for the next 10 years. That is not a thing. I've heard that. I've heard people say you'll be bad for a decade.
I have to.
Say again?
I have to. Yeah. No, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I've heard people say that. I'm like, you don't have to be bad that long. Like, even if it don't work out, you still don't have to be bad that long. You can recover in 2 seasons with a good organization.
2 years, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Even if you're not that good, if you just dump the money, like, all right, we tried. Saints just had to deal with it. We tried, didn't work, dumped the money. We're going to have to draft only for 2 years. And then that could be a good reset, right?
Here's the thing with the Saints.
But
the Saints were actually doing it so bad and so wrong to the point where they had to say, hey, look, Sean, like, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Mickey Loomis, if I'm not mistaken, I have to go back. Mickey Loomis was such a villain in New Orleans because he didn't know how. He was trying to do what the rest of the league was doing, but he let Sean run the operations, and Sean's a damn football head coach. He's not a general manager that knows monies. And I think that was the disconnect there. I think New Orleans is more of a one-off than it is the norm, if you will.
Most people don't do that, though, right? And people bring up the Eagles. The Eagles are incredibly unique in that they, even when they go in free agency, they're not top spenders. And people were throwing out names in the chat because the names worked, as if that meant they spent money. The Eagles have not spent $20 million on a normal free agent. I won't say ever, but maybe ever, right? Their highest deals are Barkley at 13, Hargrave at 13 over the last decade.
But you don't have
deals
to
that work.
It doesn't have to be a number. It can be one of the top guys in the market, and they've done that with the Alshon Jeffries. They've done that with Hargrave. They've done that with Saquon Barkley. Like, they've shown the willingness to go out and get a guy at the top of the market, and then not only just that, they've shown the willingness to make trades, whether it works or it doesn't work, right? And they've shown the willingness. Bryce Huff was another guy that if it doesn't work out, we have no problem moving on. Hassan Reddick, another guy. Like, they've shown the willingness to go sign these guys at the top of the market or trade for these guys and not use it as an excuse. I think that's what people were saying. Like, you're right, though. Philly is not spending $200 million a year. I don't think any of us are asking for that. But, hey, it's okay.
None of those guys. But
say again?
Go ahead.
It's okay.
None of those guys. Barkley was the only top of the market guy they got.
No,
Reddick wasn't considered top of the market.
Alshon Jeffrey got tagged. He was one of the highest paid receivers the year prior, and he got paid a good penny at the time. Mind you, this was back, almost a decade ago. Alshon Jeffrey's contract wasn't penny pinching. Obviously, Javon Hargrave was one of the best defensive tackles available there, and he got paid some pretty good money. Not obviously, Aaron Donald money. And then, Hassan Reddick, Saquon Barkley was literally the top of the market guy, the number one guy. So, yeah, they've done it. Reddick, another one.
The only guy on that list that I think remotely qualifies what people in this chat talking about is Saquon, and he's a running back. Like, the rest of those guys were considered.
Yeah, but who are
deals.
The Alshon Jeffries, the Hassan Reddicks, the Javon Hargraves that the Cowboys have signed? Who are they? That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, they aren't earth-shattering, record-breaking contracts. You don't need to do that to improve your team in free agency. The Cowboys do the exact opposite. They don't go tier one. He's quite literally come out, Stephen Jones, and said they over. Say again?
No, I'm agreeing with they overpay their guys, which is what I kept saying to people. They overpay their guys. Yeah. I mean, sure, if you want to put it that way, right? Overvalue it and then overpay their guys and bring guys back. Like they let Osa hit free agency and then gave him $20 million.
They didn't.
That's like,
they didn't even let him hit free agency. I'm not mistaken. I thought it was very early in free agency, and they said he was talking to the Bears or somebody. That's what I thought I heard. Somebody fact check that for me, because I don't want to be too wrong here. But I thought he got signed prior. Could be wrong though.
It was definitely a post after the season situation for sure.
Yes.
And maybe it was a negotiation a day or two before because it was out.
But
you kind of get what I'm getting at.
With all due respect to Osa, I don't think Osa is one of them type of guys.
That's my point, though, right? So my point of criticism. No, you're good, bro. My point of bland, right? It was like, all right, he's coming off the foot injury. He's about to hit free agency. Gave him $20-something million. Third, it's like we'll have guys that are about to hit free agency, and the Joneses will pay them more than they probably should, and then fans are shocked that they're not also doing it in free agency.
No.
That's my.
But so look, that's a totally different discussion, because that discussion belongs in another type of show. The overvaluing of their own guys.
Yeah.
You said it, and I'm a third guy, but I did not think they were going to sign him. They signed him. Deron Bland, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, he just came off a foot injury. What are you doing? Michael Gallup? What?
Yeah.
And it can go on and on and on.
Right.
They've done this many of times, and that is a problem in of itself. But that's because of their free agent philosophy, right? They love their guys, and they don't believe in other guys they don't know, because they think free agency is about spending great money on good players, good money on average players, and average money on bad players. That's their philosophy. But sometimes you're going to have to overspend. I'd rather overspend for a better player than overspend for a worse guy, because you know him.
Because he's your guy. We completely agree, and I think you and Voch, and my bad, and I'll finish up quick. This is the only reason I connected them, right? Because that plays into the salary cap, right? So we agree. I'm cool if they go all in and spend all the bread in the world. But the issue becomes, if you're not getting the right players with that money, and you've already overpaid guys on your team who are not what you're paying them, that can go bad, is the only thing I was attempting to argue in the chat. Not don't do it, none of the above. But we already overpaying people, and if you're not getting the right guys in free agency and that thing works, it can go real ugly, is all I was attempting to argue.
Okay,
not don't,
you
can't move the cap, none of those.
Let's not argue it. Toxic Tom, ladies and gentlemen, is joining us here.
Oh my God! Look, it's tax season, so I'm a little pissy right now because I sit down in front of people who will just talk about shit. And Martise, the argument that you said from initial is this: cap hell, no such thing, 100%, no such thing. And I'm telling you why. And you said you're changing your words, dude. This is accounting. We're talking about cash versus accounting. And when you're talking about business, words matter. Every single little detail matters. For instance, we'll say here all the time, Dak Prescott makes $40 million a year. No, he doesn't. Because if you look at the cash spending of Dak Prescott, for instance, the dude made $80 million that was sent to an escrow account the minute he signed that deal. He never made $40 million a year because, brother, he made $80 million just by signing that deal. The problem when we get into this is we're talking accrual accounting versus actual cash spending. And in actual business, just like Major League Baseball, the National Basketball Association, NHL, cash is king. All that matters is cash. When you start bringing up the salary cap, the best example I can give to you is depreciation. Are you familiar with depreciation at all?
Yes.
So, for instance, if I buy a truck and I frontline depreciate the thing on my tax return, and I say the truck is worth $100,000, but I frontline depreciate it by $80,000, I'm lowering my net income, so I'm paying less in taxes. So on book, my truck is worth $20,000. In real life, though, my truck is not worth $20,000. I merely adjusted my ledger to make it look like that, so that way my budget plays out that way for the purpose of my ledger. In actual cash terms, it's a completely different scenario. Now, you brought up a point about contracts. The NFL salary cap is the crux of the NFL, is based on NFL revenue. Goes up around $20 to $25 million a year, around 6 to 8%. So when you're dealing with money, real money, there's a principle called the time value of money. $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. And I hear people say we need to kick the can down the road. The bill comes due. No, it doesn't, because you're borrowing against future revenues. Now, if your window is right now, okay, and you have a bunch of people on your team that are on high contracts, it gives you more maneuverability to free up cap space, my ledger, to give them, and I have to pay cash to do that, so that way I can pay guys more right now to win right now. In all actuality, all you're saying to me is, I am freeing up my ledger so I can spend more cash at this second, so that way I can have more maneuverability. You can keep adding void years as you go. But when you say the cap, it's over. When you say, oh, the bill comes due, if I use, let's say I know the cap's going to go up 8% next year, and I use 3% of that. Sure. So you're going to have people that are called actuaries. They are going to spend their day looking at NFL revenues. They're going to be modeling. They're basically building stuff that you would see on Wall Street that goes, this is what we assess, high, low probability of this is what we think the cap is going to be. And they're going to borrow that future, quote, cap hit and use it today. So in reality, let's say I take 3% of my cap hit from next year and I move it into this year. The cap is still going up 5% for me next year instead of the 8% if I did nothing. We're speaking semantics now. What I'm trying to say to you is this. Bottom line is this. If you are an owner like Jeffrey Lurie, who is willing to spend cash right now, the salary cap is your best friend. If you are a person that uses and doesn't want to spend cash, i.e. be cheap like the Dallas Cowboys have been, the cap is a weapon. And you see that every single year when it comes to the pie, because they are banking on fans to not understand what the cap actually means. In all actuality, the cap, it's fugazi. It's just a ledger that you can manipulate any which way that you want, but you can't outrun the cash spending.
Now, can I reply now?
Go ahead. Yes.
Let's get his rebuttal.
You said things that have absolutely no relevance to this situation, and you used good accounting terms to make sense of something, but your application and context is wrong. Here's why. In a NFL salary cap situation, for example, you can, like your first example, you gave the 100K truck. Every NFL team does that, and that's usually what the signing bonus does. So that's why you can owe a player $19 million for 2026. That's why we can re-sign. I'll use football relevance here. That's why Dallas can re-sign Kenny Clark and save $15 million on the cap or whatever. They can re-sign Quinnen Williams and save money on the cap, because your example is you're playing the accounting game. Where you become objectively wrong is you keep saying it doesn't matter. The right thing to say would be it's worth it to win now, because the objective fact is You have to pay that money at some point. And when you do that with too many deals and you don't have the right rookie cap, quality players on rookie deals to counteract that, you have a bloated cap because you moved money over time and you weren't winning, and you don't have enough young top-end performance. So this is real football talk now. When you don't have enough young top-end performance that you're not paying, you find a situation where, again, you use Jeffrey Lurie, if you do it now and win now, great. If you do it now and don't win, you will have to pay that bill. So again, yes, and this guy already acknowledged this. And go ahead.
If I will, Toxic, is that the argument you're making, though? And I'm not saying you're wrong, Martise, but it just sounds like you guys are actually talking about two different things, but within the same book. You're on two different pages, but the same book, if that makes sense. Toxic, would you disagree that you have to pay the piper? I don't know if I've seen you say that. And if that is your argument, Martise, then I don't know how you could be wrong.
When you say pay the piper, and this is where semantics really comes into play. When you say pay the piper, you don't, and I'm not saying you said this, Martise, but you don't pay cap. When it comes to paying cash, sure.
Okay.
I guess if your owner, because there really is no, I don't think there's a cash limit in the NFL. I guess an owner could say, I'm, quote, paying the piper. But when it comes to your salary cap, man, the sky, you can get really creative really easily. So in a sense, you could say, yeah, I'm paying the piper in a traditional sense. But if you are really wanting to push a window open, it's all relative. I would say no, there really is no you have to pay it. Again, and this is where it gets really murky really quick. We're mixing two different worlds right now. We're mixing the cash spending and the cap spending per se.
Fair.
And quote me, Martise, if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. But respectfully to you, I called that out in the beginning. I don't care. At the end of the day, let me simplify it this way. Since there is a salary cap and the teams have a limit, right? You can play the accounting game and move it around. The only way you can kind of get out of it, right, in theory, in a football performance way, we're all Cowboys fans at the end of the day. None of us care about the cap. Like Sky said, give me a Super Bowl, and if you tell me Dallas won the Super Bowl and we're bad for 3 years, I'm good. I'm at the parade. I don't know if you listen to Voch. We all at Golden Corral. We're going better to Golden Corral if I'm, now I'm writing. Look, we could party for real, right? My point in that is just to say I don't care about the cap, right? I'm simply saying when you do that, you can move around all these big dollar deals, and then also go into free agency, go party there, and move around money. Eventually, that 80%, I'll use your example, that $80K you wrote off is going to hit you, is all I'm saying. So we agree in that you can create a window.
I get what you're saying now.
You're going to pay that bill.
It depends on how you do it, too, because you can continue to add void. Again, this is where if you really wanted to just pay it like the Denver Broncos are doing, you could just eat the bill. You could. But you could also keep on pushing stuff forward. And again, if this is based upon that the salary cap is going up, if the salary cap goes down, like in COVID, if that was more consistent, we're having a totally different conversation. Martise is right on that.
That's what I'm saying. I think there was two different conversations being had where I don't think either of you are necessarily wrong. It's just centering on one specific topic, Martise's topic and your topic. I think at the end of the day, though, that we both can agree. Well, I don't know. Martise, I'm still trying to figure this part out.
We all three might agree.
Yeah, well, I'm
sure
all three of us.
I think we all will probably agree on that part.
Well, this part right here, I'm still not quite sure on your belief here, but because I said this already to you, I think most Cowboy fans will be okay having to go through a year or two or whatever, because some organizations it can be less than that or it can be more. All right, we gave it all we got in regards to throwing whether it be money or assets and trades or whatever to really go for it in this window. It didn't work out. Let's reset and try this thing again. Can we all agree? I think all Cowboy fans will be fine with. I don't think anyone is scared of, or at least I speak for myself. I'm not scared of failing that way. I just want them to make the attempt and not go into the offseason every year stepping on eggshells when you got other teams saying, man, damn that, I'm kicking down the door because I'm trying to win F them picks type thing.
Right. Colts. Right. So my only hesitancy on that is I'll be very disappointed if they did it with a level of talent, meaning they overpaid talent that's not really good enough to put you where you want. Like, don't go all in just to barely make a title game. So I would rather them blow up the whole budget, trade the 2027 picks. Like, if you're going to do it, like, go Ram style. Like, everything is gone.
Well, that's
Yes.
That's kind of the
right.
And
the picks,
irony
the
of that.
Do all of it.
The irony of that is that Stephen Jones tried to talk shit about the Rams' way of doing it, and the Rams were back in NFC Championship game and playoffs 1 year removed from all of that. But in part because of what you said, they also hit in the draft, right, with young talent. So there is no one way to build this thing, right? But the reason why this is a topic of conversation year in, year out for the Cowboys is because the Cowboys have approached it as what? One way to build it. And it hasn't worked. So we're just asking for them to try different ways to build this. It's a copycat league. Go look at the championship organizations, how they've done it. It's a combination of, hitting in the draft, but also being aggressive outside of that. Hey, y'all.
And they're not aggressive enough.
They're not at all. This was good stuff. I appreciate y'all.
May I say one thing, Sky?
For being civil. Yes, in closing. Go ahead, Tom.
Martise, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I own that. Say my name. I was wrong. No. Like, I was wrong for doing what I did. I apologize to you, sir. Will not ever happen again. And CeeDee Lamb is an elite wide receiver. He's number one. That's all I got to say. If you know, you know. If you know, you know.
Copper. Hey, this is how it's supposed to be done, man. This is how it's supposed to be done. Oh, my bad, James. 1 second. I appreciate Martise and Tox for coming in here and being very civil about it. I wasn't going to let it get out of control, but that was good. You learned a lot too. If you wasn't in accounting, if you weren't in accounting, you was in accounting today. I tell you that much. But this is why I don't know who I said this to yesterday. I think it was Twan. This is why I don't like to do the back and forth on Twitter, because you can't do this. Can't do this. Social media, and my bad for taking it sideways, it's completely different than it was, obviously, 10 years ago, whenever, Facebook groups originally and conversations, and you used to be able to have fun back and forth with people you knew. Now it's many strangers, and it get disrespectful. They change the sub. You can't really have a real conversation. I tell people, come here. I'm not going back and forth with you on Twitter. You can call in the show, and we can get a better understanding via conversation. And you see it even in the chat, right? Like they went back and forth. It was clearly, obviously, a misunderstanding. Things got a little heated. So you know what? Nah, let's get them on the horn. Figured it out. So shouts out to y'all for making this a quality conversation. With that said, both relevant, and I think they both made great points. But I don't want that part that Martise talked about to go under the radar, and that you still do have to be successful in the draft. And that is a conversation I'll have with Foots. We'll bring Foots on. We talked about it on the collective. It hasn't been the case for the Cowboys draft-wise of late. They've got to be better. And that's something I've said years ago. Y'all remember that, right? Like, oh, yeah, the Cowboys draft well. But because of how they don't participate in other aspects of team building, they got to be better now. And that was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. Now, because they are not drafting that well, or they haven't, they had one on a run where they weren't, they actually got to do both, which makes this thing hard. And let me say this, harder. Hey, y'all, let's have some patience with Christian Parker. I don't have belief, I'll be honest with you, that all of a sudden we're going to attack every single last hole on defense via free agency and trades to the point where this Cowboys defense goes from dead last to top 5, top 10, whatever. I'll be shocked if that happens. There are going to be holes that they still have coming out of the draft, out of free agency, out of whatever. There's still going to be question marks just like there was. It's really hard to cover all of that in one offseason. What I was going to say to the fellas on the phone, or at least to Martise, was I thought the time to do the all-in, to do pushing the chip, was after those 12-5 seasons, specifically the first one. I got B-Bird on the line. He's heard me say this many times. We talk also globally about 12-5, 12-5, 12-5. When you see teams have success the previous year, they go on to have more success the next year. 9 times out of 10, they have made the moves to do so. Whereas Dallas has almost always done the opposite. Or they've said, you know what, we were lacking. We didn't make said move, so we have to catch up to where we were last year. Meanwhile, the rest of the league is jumping above you. I think it was Joe Paterno who said, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. We see 12-5. Where do you see them getting better? They weren't. They just weren't. So it is going to be fascinating to be like, hey, man, pushing all the chips after 7-10 with a team on defense that is so desperate. Like, you need so many pieces, but it's necessary. You don't have time to be conservative. When I wanted them to do this shit, the team was so much better talent-wise. But it is what it is. This is where we're at. Jerry he sat down and he talked to Nick and he said, man, I was looking at my ways and all this and all that. And he's right. The way you were doing things defensively in regards to your coaching hires was dead wrong to me. I'm not saying I know everything, because I don't, but you can't constantly change defensive coordinators but keep guys from previous staffs. You can't ignore your head coaches once all the time and just bring in whoever the hell you want. You can't do that. You develop a divisive organization. Whether it's animated in a way like Buster, but whether it's animated in a way that McCarthy was when it came to Kellen Moore, it got to a point where it was very animated in public. Or whether it's kept quiet, like Mike Zimmer. McCarthy didn't want Mike. Mike didn't want Al. That's a recipe for disaster. So when Jerry talks about all the changing and whatnot, yeah, free agency is definitely going to be big and seeing how they move. But I am glad that they let Shoddy say, this is how we want to move defensively, man. You've got to stop looking at, oh, well, he had past glory. Let's get him back and try to chase it. If that was the case, Mike McDonald wouldn't exist. If that was the case, McVay wouldn't exist. All right. And it's on and on. These young up-and-coming coaches, they get their shot. Dallas hired one of those young up-and-coming coaches, if you even want to call him that. And it really wasn't because he was up-and-coming. It was because he was one of their own, and Jason Garrett. And that goes on and on defense. Monty Kiffin, chase past glory. Rob Marinelli, we're trying to chase past glory. Shouts out to Rob. Mike Nolan, that was a coach's decision. However, you got to live with that. It didn't work. Scrap it. Bring in another guy. Let him do it. Didn't happen. Dan Quinn was a guy. Worked out. Mike Zimmer, chasing past glory. Flus, chasing past glory. Again, and I hate to say failed defensive head coaches back to defensive coordinators does not work. No, we see it happen all the time. But it's okay to try that young guy that is a little more innovative and more modern. And even if they're not young and in a shoddy, do they have an innovative, modern mind frame. Shotty ain't young. Shotty 52. Been around the league forever. But Shotty has been more modern. He's been around. He's a chameleon. Ain't mean to get long-winded. I just looked over again. It says turn my mic up. I'll go back and listen. But I'll turn me up a little bit more. Let's wrap y'all a little longer here. We got B Bird, the original OG, on the horn. What's up with you, brother?
Hey, nothing much, Scott. How you doing, man? Good to hear you again this morning, brother.
Yeah, man. It's good to hear you and hear from all of y'all, too, man.
Yeah.
It feels, the juices are flowing right now. I feel like I can keep on going for about 2 more hours.
Hey, so I wanted to just comment on a couple of things that the previous callers talked about. And overall, it looks like just from their conversation, you have people that believe the draft is the foundation of your team. I definitely believe that. But I think you got to be strong in all categories. You got to, in all acquisitions, I'm talking about free agency, the draft, trades. And if you go look at Philadelphia, which you're kind of pointing to, they do well in all those areas, and that's kind of what puts them in there every year.
At the very least,
really,
they make the attempt,
yeah,
B-Bird. At the very least. They don't always hit on the
correct.
trades,
That's what
but
it
they
is.
make the attempt.
Yeah, and I would I think his name is Martrice.
Yeah,
I would just tell him that I always give because he's saying, like, when you go for it and you don't get there. Man, look, I always say this, man, this won't be long. But I told my daughter one time she played softball, hey, man, we ain't trying to get on base with the bat on our shoulders. We got a bat. We're going to swing at it. And to me, the way Martrice is, sound like it's a little scary. Like, I'm scared to go for it because if I don't make it, I don't know what. No, forget that, man. We don't worry about that. We go for it. And then, and then so I started doing, I started commending my daughter just on being aggressive at the plate. I don't care about if you hit or not. I like your attitude. And so I want to like the Cowboys' attitude. That's what I want. But I was going to talk about Pickens, and I'm not going to be long on here because they franchise tagged him, and
expected to. Yeah.
Pickens, my son, Pickens, we haven't done it. They're talking about doing it. I'm sorry, you're right. My son, that's his favorite player at this time. So he called me, Dad, you saw that? And I said, I did see that, man, but that doesn't mean much at this point in time. But one thing I was going to ask you about is the negotiation between Micah, Dak, CD, other Cowboy players, it's kind of been dragging them through the mud. I really think that could have a resonating effect on your locker room. And what I mean by that is when you say that, hey, if you say this, hey, if that player goes out and plays well above expectations, then what we're going to do, we're going to award him a new contract. And if that's a model, and I think that's a model most of the time, the Cowboys model is if said player goes out there and exceeds his expectations, well, now we're going to fight him on everything. I don't think that brings a good locker room energy. Some people might not think that matters, but I think it does. I think it goes into the other 53 or whatever players that's there, and they looking like, man, they treated CD like this. They treated Dak like this. What they gonna do for me? Like, and so I don't really think. I think that's part of the culture thing. The Joneses don't really look at. They just look at numbers, right? But they don't look at other things that. How does this play well in the locker room? And some people think like, okay, after negotiations, okay, we're all cool. He signed a contract. But some of those things linger. You know what I'm saying? I think they linger with other players too. So I was hoping that we're going to get into it. It's not there yet. So I hope we're going to get into this offseason. And it won't be another offseason of negotiating through the media, throwing people under the mud, and all that kind of stuff. And so that's one point. And my last point, and I'll let you go. One thing I'm hoping is that Jerry and David Mulligetta, I hope that Jerry's not being petty with this thing too. Because I don't know if I know he has something against David Mulligetta. I don't know if he could. Jerry's petty and emotional, and so he holds on to stuff. So I think for some of this,
I think it was more.
Thing might kind of bleed over into this.
I think it was more personal with Micah than David. I think it was more personal with Micah.
Well, when he didn't say his name, right? That was to me. That was kind of disrespectful. We never would say Mulligetta's name.
Yeah, but he's also
worked
deals with guys that was under David Mulligetta. I just think, again, remember what we talked about, when you try to negotiate in the media with these boys, that's not your arena. It's not your arena.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the negotiations in the media. But I think this was a situation where there was a personal relationship. This is why you shouldn't get close to Jerry in that way. And the personal relationship, filtered over into business, and it got messy, and both parties started to. It just didn't go well. So I think he'll be fine negotiating with David, but David's going to be it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you brought up, and I think people may not know this, but Dak keeps in business with the Jones. I don't know if you know. I guess you probably realize that too. Oh, yeah, people think, he's not Tony Romo, and this is not Tony Romo. Dak Prescott just keeps his business with those guys. What you gonna say?
Oh, if Boss is listening, we a couple years in a row we talked to Dak's dad in the stands at training camp about that exact, like literally that exact thing, and Dak's pops was like, they not buddy at all. This ain't going to the Duke game, hanging out. They don't hate each other or nothing like that, but it's like, nah, don't. Yeah. And Todd France said it. Don't get close like that, and don't get into the media with the mess. That's right. Man. Just.
That's right. That's right. Well, they what it is, they really have a lot of experience at that too, right? So they've been doing that for years, man. So you don't want to get into that with those guys, man. But I don't know how Pickens would take the franchise tag. Personally, what I mean by that, like, how would he respond to it? I don't feel like he's the franchise tag type guy. I don't know what you think. And Scott, I'm gonna let you go, man. I appreciate you letting me on. I'll listen to you offline, bro.
All right, man. I think he's I think he's definitely a franchise tag type guy in that if you don't get a deal done, let's tag in and try to extend that time frame, because there's no way in hell. If you don't place the tag, somebody else is signing it, right? Listen, guys, if Anthony Spencer gets the tag, if Dalton Schultz and Tony Pollard gets the tag, why not GP? Well, yeah, I think it's franchise tag guy. Good stuff there. Good stuff there. I'm not saying that it can't fester into the locker room. I think there's some merit to that, possibly. But man, today's game just feels like I don't know, maybe it was like this back in the 90s or whatever, early 2000s, but it just feels like the players understand that separating church and state. Like, my business stuff is being handled with agents and them. They suck, whatever, but I would hope it does not affect them in that locker room. I would hope. But I can't really say it does or it doesn't. I think there is some merit to potentially festering over it, saying, man, like you said, you treated him like that, why not me? But ain't a whole lot of lambs in the locker room. So, yeah, Dante Fowler, you ain't going to get to say it. But it's interesting. Man, shouts out to y'all for rocking with me. 500 plus strong. First show back. It's the off season, man. It's one of my favorite times to really dig deep into a lot of things. We got shows coming up where we're going to dive into, we're going to review guys. We're going to look at the free agency. We're going to, draft talk. I mean, I'm not draft guy. I know my folks hate when I say that. I ain't, though. I'm going to bring draft folk on here, though. And we're going to talk about it. Let's keep going. We got 3 more. We'll try to be as quick as we can. My bad, y'all. But I want to listen, man. I ain't heard y'all in a minute. Mo Money, what's up?
What's going on? How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Good morning.
I'm good, man. I tapped in. They got folks in there, Toxic and
Marquise.
Marquise. I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, you got special guest on the show today, man. We got all kinds of stuff.
He said special. Yeah. I had to let them in here and squabble a little bit. You know what I'm saying? A little.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to take the gloves off, man. That's what we can do,
Yeah.
And I'll piggyback right in on that. We're talking about swinging for the fences and so forth, and going all in and that type of all the terms, whichever term you want to look at. I don't really look at it that way. These other organizations that have success I don't think they're necessarily swinging for the fences in that aspect either. I mean, they're trying to win, but they have all of their resources in line and all of their variables lined up. And I've called in before and I talked about it the way I look at it. You increase your team 5 different ways. And we've been playing whack-a-mole with how we have been successful increasing our team. And I'll just say it like this. And we can just look at the numbers here or the results. Coaching, okay? We hit on the offensive side. We dud on the defensive side. Coaching, you increase your coaching and you retool your staff. That's one way your team gets better. Okay, injuries. We have people who are injured, and then they have to get fully recovered, guys like Demarion Overshown, right, and Rebel. Then you have guys who were already on the team. Can they get better? You know, did Morris Leofold get better this year? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And so those are ways to increase your team. Then you have the draft, and then you have free agency. And then all of those things in concert together, if you can increase all of them 10%, that's a 50% increase. Your team is markedly better. The Patriots probably hit on 5 of those things. They got Vrabel in. They drafted some good guys. They brought in Diggs, so forth and so on, right? That's not swinging for the fences. That's all 5 cylinders working at the same time.
A couple of those things you have no control over, though. Like
no.
I call it 3 pillars.
You don't always have control over them. And
I have 3 pillars of team building because you can control the 3 pillars. You can't control somebody getting better. You can't control injury. Like that's not. I don't know how that could be a part of team building because you can't control. You can control.
You can control them getting better. How they prepare in the off season and things. You know what they do in the
really
off
can't
season.
Control that. I mean that's definitely a self. That's a self thing. But here's the thing. You can control the free agents you're bringing in, the quality of guys you're bringing. You can control, going out and trading for guys, and you can control the quality of guys that you draft. They can control that. Yeah. Now, you bring up another point that we've talked about many of years, too. You can control who the hell you bring in to coach this team, too. Because
and that's the both because you have a budget for that. You can pay whatever you want to pay
right.
for that,
too. And they've been very cheap on that. And they, instead of going out and interviewing the Mike Vrabels of the world and McDonald's and the Ben Johnsons, they want. And look, I like Shoddy. Don't get me wrong. But I ain't gonna act like Shoddy was my first choice. I would rather have Ben Johnson. I would rather have Mike. Like, correct. You can pay money to do that, and that's not something that he has been willing to do over the years. That is something he's notorious. He notoriously wants to hire the kind of cheaper guy and the guy who's not going to cause that much controversy within the hierarchy of things. So you're definitely right. I think you can get better based off coaching.
And that's what I would call, going all in or swinging for the fences. Just looking at every avenue, knowing that you can't control it, even with the draft and stuff, because you can say, hey, I rate this guy, so forth and so forth. I'm pretty sure the Patriots feel like Will Campbell's pretty good. But them little short alligator arms is costing him right now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
the draft is, at the end of the day, is still kind of a throwing dart type thing, but you cannot reach. You cannot draft for need over drafting best player at position of need, and you can. There's still controllables, if you will. You can take CeeDee Lamb and not Cleveland Chason. You can, what I'm saying. You can take what's my man's name? My over there in Atlanta, I forget the guard instead of taking there's certain things you can do. Instead of taking Luke Schoonmaker, you can take any goddamn body else. But
and that's the thing. You're 100% correct on it. But once again, for me, I don't necessarily. I wouldn't call that. You got to swing for the fences and go crazy. Not really. No. You just
you're right. I think the
if
swinging
you have
part
all of those things working, your team should get better.
I think the swing, when people say swing for the fences or go for the gusto, push the chips in, I think we're talking about free agency and we're talking about the trade department. I think because those are the things you can legitimately do that with, right? You can legitimately say, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to go get me, what's my man, Bobby Wagner or Von Miller, just some of the big names of the late. I'm going to go get me, and it don't got to be that high. It can be, as we talked about earlier with Martise, the Javon Hargrave, Saquon Barkley, Hassan Reddick, et cetera types. It doesn't have to help. Milton Williams, to me, was a better player than Osa. And we decided to sign Osa instead of going to get a Milton Williams. Like, to me, that's swinging. Milton Williams didn't get
Yeah.
a $180 million. He might have got like $100 million. I don't know, but he didn't get this. $300 million. He got a good contract, but he didn't get the Aaron Donald contract. But that's swinging to me, right? Going out and getting Quinnen. Granted, I think that was a response to saying, "Oops, we traded a difference maker. We got to go get a difference maker." But going out and get a Quinnen or going out and get a Max would be swinging. So I do think when people say that, I feel like they're talking about free agency and trades as opposed to, honestly, bro, I'm with you on coaching. I think that's swinging too. If you would have went out and got a Ben Johnson, that's swinging. That's swinging to me.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Bergeron, thank you.
No doubt.
Bergeron.
And I just want to see if we can hit on, all of those. And like you said, some of them are a little bit more, a little bit less. We don't have control over. But I'm telling you, when those 5 factors hit at the same time, that's when we'll see the market improvement. That's how the Rams turn the corner real quick, because they were able to recover and hit on those things. They already had a coach in place. They already got a system in place. You talk about very eloquently about how they have their defensive system. The San Francisco 49ers have their defensive system in place. So now they're plugging in dudes that match that. The players already match that. So they have less of those variables to deal with when we starting over every year with the defense. Maybe now we can change that so we can incrementally get better with those things without having to start over on the dry erase board, right? So that's the stuff that is costing us. The whack-a-mole that I'm talking about is ham, no burger, cereal, no milk type stuff. We're missing on those things.
That definitely goes to some of the things I was talking about in my previous video. You're absolutely right. Let me touch on that in a quick second. Appreciate you, Mo Money. Good conversation here.
Yes, sir. Always. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm laughing at Hawk the bodyguard. Shouts out to my guy Hawk, man. I can't wait to meet him in person. He said he dropped super chat, and we're gonna get to the supers.
Super chat.
He said, "Sky, don't take no more breaks. We be missing you." Then he said, "Matter of fact, 2 shows a damn day." Man. Look, I'm back, man. I'm back. We got some things lined up. Sky 2 Eyes show. We'll try to drop a couple episodes a month too. She's very busy doing her thing on the stack and the draft show. But I'm still on the collector. I'm still here, man. But you're right. There's a different vibe to the live shows, man. Different vibe. Yeah, I do like what he's saying, Mo Money, about some variables that should already be in place as an organization. I call that a philosophical structure, right? Like the Cowboys don't have that. I've had this argument on our debate, let me say, on the collective. I've talked about it with y'all for years. Like we just don't have a structure in place that we can plug, whether it be players, coaches, whatever, in, and it's a seamless transition, if you will. Maybe not in the sense that, we're going to be winners the very next year, but we're building, right? And there's no more evidence to that than this. There's no more evidence to that than this. It's almost impossible. Impossible to be a consistently good defense when you go through this many structural changes, philosophical changes. And not only that, what you don't see here is how often they've kept assistant coaches from the previous regime or the next regime and then the next regime, and then it's not possible, man. And in my latest video, I talked about why I think, there's a potential plan here that could outlast a Christian Parker, hopefully. That can maybe outlast Shoddy. But that's how you gotta think to me. You can't keep thinking 1 year at a time in this manner. Like, yes, 1 game at a time, each season's new. I get that. But when we're trying to build, you do have to build out over the years. And what I mean by that is not necessarily like, you know what? We can't spend money this year because in 2029. No. I'm talking about philosophically the structure of your team. I'm hiring this coach. We're doing this. This is our philosophy via defense, and this is what we're sticking with for the next whatever. This is who we are as a DNA of this organization, and we're going to make sure that these coaches fit. We're going to make sure that the players fit, in this, et cetera, et cetera. We don't even have that. So he's just going with the win. We just snip snapping. That's why I think it's important to have a general manager, because the general manager usually sets that. And guess what? If they're bad, they can be fired. We don't got that. So when I talk about trying to hit that lightning in the bottle and taking advantage of that window, yeah, sometimes you do got to just throw everything in the middle and hope and pray like hell, because they have not given us confidence to be like, all right, this is the plan, man. We're seeing it through, because we're seeing the blocks build and stack. Some organizations, you see it very quickly. You know, the one that just won. Some it take a little bit of time. Some they get to that top and they don't get back there for a very long time. We are a prestigious, I should say, organization. We're not terrible in the sense that we can't compete. We've competed for so long. We know how to do that. We know how to compete. Just got to do stuff to get over the hump. I don't think we do enough of that. And when that's baked in your DNA, a la that stupid team up, I-95, that's baked in who they are. Oh, they know we're going to compete. But we also going to do shit to get over the hump. Sure, it's nice to see the downfall happen, though, with that organization. Shouts out to Stoutling. Hey, Stoutling, you need a job? Come on. Come on over, man. Los, what's up, man?
Hey, good morning, Scott, man. It's great to hear your voice. Football season's over. 200 more days to, have an opportunity again. Sad days for us football fans, but it is what it is. My thing is, and I'll make my call quick, Sky.
All right.
Every time I see Super Bowl, I say, man, why can't that be us, man? Like, it's been, and it gets to me because, like, man, I'm going to say my age. I'm 29 years old. I'm about to be 30 this year. And I'm like to myself, like, damn, I'm going to be 30 and I haven't seen a Cowboys Super Bowl in all my lifetime. You know what I'm saying, Scott? And it gets to that point where, like, how many bites of the apple are you going to have? And I'm talking specifically to Jerry, right?
Mm.
Because age is a number you can't control. You're going to keep getting older, and you're with, you can have the success of what you have in the past, but that's never going to transfer to what you think is going to work to the future, correct? And my thing is, I do see that Jerry's probably going to change his ways because, he's like, man, I only got so many bites of the glory hole, right? But my thing is this: if you keep doing decisions for I say selfish reasons, right? We can say the Michael Parsons thing was kind of selfish. We can say the hiring of coaches back in the past was kind of selfish to his ways because he wants all the credit. There's no point. We can all see that, right? But if Jerry is really about changing this Cowboys culture and putting in the winning ways, he's on the right path. Because, man, I'm going to tell you right now, Sky, there's a lot more brothers in that star than what it used to be, right? And he's like, man, I don't see too many white eyes out here, you know what I'm saying? So it's a good start, right? But I'm saying is you got to do the right decisions that people have found success in. If you don't listen to the people that are trying to help you, how are you ever going to get better? And that's my point, Scott. So we can – he listens, but it comes right out that ear.
He listened, but see, he hires people, certain people for a certain reason. He delegates. Don't get me wrong, but that's kind of the issue to me. There is no normal hierarchy like the rest of the league where there's general manager or there's president, general manager, head coach, et cetera, where he's three of those things, right? He's a president, vice president, owner, general. Like, he can't fire himself. So he does listen to a bunch of people, but that can be, a problem too when you got 17 different voices in your head, and that's what happens. But that's a whole nother discussion. But anyway, I digress.
And my thing is this: I mean, if you want to find George Pickens, then do it. But if you're gonna franchise tag him, just know that, hey, I mean, we know we have let's say this, we have like a 3, maybe 2 year window with Dak, and I'm gonna be honest, Dak is only getting older. I mean, we already wasted a full MVP season from him this year, and it sucks because knowing we were only one coach away to be average. And I'm gonna say this, Sky, every team can be attacked, but it's gonna be, can my best beat your best? Meaning, not every team is gonna be perfect in offense and defense. But if I'm the Cowboys, if I know I'm all in with George Pickens on this offense, then damn right I'm trying to do all my best to at least make this defense average. Because seeing the Seahawks, their strength was that defense. Yes, they had Jackson Smith, a Jigba, Kenneth Walker, but Sam Darnold wasn't that all-be-all quarterback, right?
Nah, but I think they were balanced. I've been telling people, I thought Seattle, and it was very slept on, obviously, all year. But when you look back at it, hindsight, that is the most balanced team in the league. I think they have a really good offense. Granted, it's not, the greatest elite or whatever, but it's good enough. They got players at each level that can hurt you, and then they have an elite defense. I don't know. There's another team that's that balanced.
Exactly, Scott, and that's the thing. So I say if Cowboys do go for it this year, I'll say hey, let's do it again. Let's sign George Pickens, have him to a 2-year, 3-year extension, go in all this offense, make sure Dak is MVP level, and let's try to make this defense average, and let's try to win, man. Because also that's all we want as Cowboys fans. Yeah. We just want to be a winning team, all right? And
that's right, Lo.
Hell, even if we get to the Super Bowl, there's no guarantee we're going to win it. But damn, we never get there. So that's all I got, Sky. You have a good one. Peace out. Many blessings. And shout out to you and all your hard work, man. Keep on thriving.
Thank you, Los. Appreciate you. Hey, let's just get there, man. Let's just get there. Granted, I want to win it for sure. Don't get me wrong, but damn it, like I said to y'all earlier, talking to the bros, watching in Foots, as all of this was happening, I'm like, man, I want to be a part of that, bro.
I'm trying to see what that be like right there. Look, be that. Look.
Can't win it unless you get there. Can't do it. Hey, let me tell you something though, boy. The cookouts are finna be lit on that defensive side. Let me tell you something right now. On the shows where we do the cookout, somebody from the defense is at the DJ table every single goddamn show. Every show. This is the defensive room right now. That's how I know Shotty said, come on, brother. I'm gonna let you do your thing. I'm gonna let you do your thing. Cause ain't no way. I'm gonna tell you something right now. If Jerry Jones was leading the charge, Rex Ryan would be a defense coordinator. Ron Rivera would be a defense coordinator. Leslie Frazier would be a defense coordinator. Hell, he might have called Dave Campbell. He let Shotty do this thing, and Shotty went in there and got Farouk, D'Lo Brown, and The Rock. And then they went out and got, Will Muschamp's nephew, man. So they got the African Americans and Mark. Shout out to Mark in the building. It's going to be a fun season on that side of the ball. Again, no, patience. It might take some time. They might not go out here and get everything they need. Doesn't mean that Christian Parker can't build an identity and a philosophy on that side of the ball. It just may not be, elite year one. But we got to see improvement, though. We can't see a regression. Like, who would have thought, as bad as the defense was in 2024, we'd see a regression? That's why Bro had to go. Not only was he regressing on the field, he was regressing in that locker room. And then we had no fallback plan. Whereas with Christian Parker, man, if he builds this thing correctly, if Christian does so well, we could have a guy underneath. Just step right in. That's what you love to see. Somebody on Twitter, y'all know the Key and Peele, the famous Key and Peele, shaking hands with, what's up, dapping dudes and shaking the white guys, dapping, or the, Somebody said Ryan Smith is the 1/8 black. All right, cool. What's up, man? What's up, man? Hold on. Let me see if I got what I got over here. There they go. There they go. Those are your new hirees. Shouts out to him, man. Marcus Dixon. Cheetah Ray. I might be saying it wrong. Uzo. Coach Uzo. Let me make sure I get these names right, boy. That name, boy. Tough one. Chidera Uzo Daribe. Outside linebacker coach. Marcus Dixon. Coach Derek Ansley. Ryan Smith. And then Mark was just hired. Will Muschamp's nephew. Make sure I get it. To respect the Muschamp family. Robert Muschamp. Still don't know what his position is. I should have asked B that. I don't know what he's here to do, but he was the defensive quality control coach in LA with the Chargers. And what I thought was cool was when we got the hire, Tony Jefferson, who had a career year, resurgence, let me say that. Tony was like, no. So he must be doing something right over there. And so I really like this staff that we're building. I think there is potential, again, for Christian Parker, who's a very sharp, young mind, up and coming. Everyone is raving about, could be the next type of head coach. Hopefully it's a couple years. It'll take 2-3 years to do that. But I think somebody in that realm right there, you hope that they are developing to be the next defensive coordinator, if you will. Yeah, the guru. Yeah, bro. Special teams, Nick Sorensen's returning. Not really sure why, but he is. All right, let me get into the chat. You know what? Supers real quick. Chat. And then we can rock out here. Because I do want to answer that question from Hulk. He said, crazy question. You think CP can help Diggs if they brought him back for depth? Nah, bro. I think that relationship is severed. Super chats. Let's see. Oh man, shouts out to y'all. Y'all came through today.
Super chat.
B Bird dropped 5 and said these messy negotiations send a bad signal to the rest of the players in the locker room. The message should be prove it and we'll pay you. Yes, he had brought that up when he called in. I do wonder. I'm not completely going to dismiss that, but I do wonder if today's day and age, is it just customary, like, all right, business is outside the locker room? Because I do believe in two cultures, at least in Dallas, because that's how they've been. I believe there is a locker room culture. We often hear about how that we got a good locker room culture for years. Then I think there's an organizational culture. Like when you think of certain organizations, you don't think of multiple cultures. You think of one. And I do think there's two different cultures in Dallas. And I wonder if that locker room culture is strong enough to kind of push through the organizational dysfunction. Obviously not on the field, but I mean within that locker room, within each other. But it is interesting. You do wonder. Big Kahuna dropped 5.
Super chat.
Told me to turn up the mic. We had some mic issues earlier. Restarted something. We're good to go now. Excuse me. I'm gonna run this back to see how my levels were, but it seemed like it was cool.
Super chat.
Bottom line drop 2 said best to do it. Appreciate you. We even got Martise dropping the super. Martise. He dropped 5 and said keep up the good work, Scott. Appreciate you, Martise. And then my man Hawk dropped 2 and said we need 2 damn shows a day for that hiatus. Look, you're still gonna get this work, man. It may not be, we're not doing 5 lives a week or nothing like that, and it may be more sporadic in the sense of the wins. Maybe at 9, maybe at 10, maybe I might drop a night stream. It's been a minute since I've been live in the evening. So, with that said, if you aren't subscribed, first subscribe if you enjoy what we do here. But if you are and you don't have that bell clicked, you won't be notified. So hit that bell. YouTube can be a little funny with it, but still hit it just in case. And we'll pop up, man. We'll have live streams. I definitely, y'all know how I feel about live streams, man. I like to put a lot of work into the live streams. I don't want to give y'all just whackness. So I'm gonna make sure these live streams are quality ones. We'll continue to drop videos. Sky and Twice show will still be hitting. Look out for me and Vach. We'll be doing some work. I don't know about this week, but soon me and Vach will have a couple shows popping for y'all too. So y'all stick around, man. Appreciate T Jack just sent. He said sent 5 Skywalker. Oh, shouts out to T Jack. I've seen you do this before, man. I don't push the memberships often, but he does it for me, man. He's gifting out memberships. Shouts out to T Jack. He's been doing this for a little bit for me, man. Appreciate you. Big Boom says, Sky, do a night show, bro. The Night Sky. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you. I kind of miss doing the night show. I did it for the first like 2 or 3 years before A to Z scooped me up and then took over the mornings. And I kind of just been accustomed to doing the mornings. And the mornings is pretty fun. But I'm gonna have to pop up and do an evening show on y'all. So I hit that bell. Hit that bell. Good stuff today. Before we get up out of here, though, man, one more shout out to another great sponsor this season, man. I really hope that we're working on it right now, but we can keep this thing going with Sleeper. You can still use Sleeper. The season may be over. The Super Bowl may be done, but there are obviously other sports on the #1 fantasy app in Sleeper. Got football, you got baseball about to pop off here soon, spring training. Right now you got the NBA. You got hockey going. And trust me, I'll be on there with the NBA. I'll be trying to hit, you know. Use the promo code STEELE, STEELE, if you're not familiar with exactly how it works. I'll let them tell you.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code STEELE. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Shouts out to Sleeper, GTS. Go to sleep. By the way, super overtime here. Wasn't feeling the Royal Rumble, man. Wasn't feeling the Royal. I'm getting a little, hey, Paul Levesque. Come on, man. This is like the 3rd year in a row. Ain't no real surprises. Hey. Hold on, big dog. Royal Rumble, my favorite PLE. They call it PLE now, but my favorite Big Four pay-per-view. That was not good. Also, so halftime last night, right? I know that's a divisive subject, man. Not to me. I don't give a damn. The production was lit. Y'all know me. I'm all about production. The production was fire. I ain't know a single mother thing he said. But I was one thought I met her. I don't know none of his songs except for the one he came out to Backlash against Damian Priest. One thought I met, looked over to my son. Don't get twisted. Don't let this chair fool you. But man, I was fire. I told my wife, I said, man, I really wish I knew what was saying because they look like they lit. At the end, his boys was hopping on the way. I said, man, I don't know what he's saying, but they is lit. I had to run it back. They was mad. The reggaeton, the guru, the reggaeton got me. I go, and my wife in here. I text my wife, I said, yo, I feel like I'm at a house party from back in the day again. At the beginning of the show. It was like, oh, reggaeton. I used to be a DJ and promoter and all that stuff, man. We had a reggaeton section, so I was in there like, hey. Then he started, Lady Gaga came out. I ain't know them songs. I ain't know any of the songs, but I didn't know that vibe. But I respected the visuals. That was just fire. The production was super fire. That might have been the best I've ever seen. Good message too from him as well, man. I enjoyed what I could from the halftime show. And one thing you know about me is I don't give a damn. If the music hits me, I'll move. I don't know what he's saying, but I'll move, man. One more story before we leave. One more story. Before I came to move to Dallas, we visited Dallas. I ain't gonna tell you when, but they played the Steelers. And don't judge me, okay? We ain't know nothing about Deep Ellum. Deep Ellum, wow. But we went down Deep Ellum, and then we went to some club down there. The club was all right, man. And I like to dance when I go out, you know. It was kind of like, whatever. But we was feeling it, and we was like, let's hop. Let's go to a different spot, man. All the spots was kind of long lines. We ended up somehow, some way at a Latin club. There was a line. I said, "Come here, bounce, man. You're a couple hours out of sin." Boy, we was feeling good this night. We got in there. I didn't know none of the songs, but I didn't care. Me and my wife was in that thing, and they was looking at us too, like, "Who is this?" We didn't care, man. I didn't care. That's what I'm saying. I don't care what the music is. Music, if it hit me, if I feel it, not only if I dance, but my emotions will feel it too, right? It don't got to be a dance song. I ain't never been to a Latin club except that one time, and I had a ball. So, hey, man, I like the halftime show. Just saying. Shouts out to Ricky Martin. Yeah, he came out there too. We got the nation with Owen Hart. That's a good one, DC Stone. I might have to make that graphic too. All right, man, let me get up out of here. We did enough OT. Let me push the goddamn button.
Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn button.
T-Jack, don't let it fool you, man. I'm telling you, that reggaeton Blue Star, I thought he was about to... They played that Daddy Yankee. I was like, let's go. I'm out of here, man. Love y'all. Peace.
Bomb Squad!